I thank you.
All right, everything should be live now.
Thank you, Cliff.
You're welcome.
Victor, are you able to talk and see?
Live from New York.
Hello, Victor. I don't want to open the meeting without him if we think he's can get in.
He doesn't have the mute microphone. Oh,
There we go. Hi, Victor. Are you ready to speak? I mean, are you able to speak?
He has to connect his microphone.
Victor,
He just connected his microphone.
can you speak? Victor? Hi, Neil.
Hi.
We haven't opened the meeting yet, but we're going to go into executive session first.
Sure. Do I do anything here, or you just will kick me out automatically?
You could sit here. We're going to go into another Zoom session.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
But the comp plan meeting's not started till 5, so it's kind of a waste of Neil's time.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got it. I'll.
So if you want to go do something for an hour, you're free.
I have plenty to do. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll do that. Bye.
All right, Victor, do you think you can speak now?
Hi.
Victor? I don't know. Nora, Dan, do you want to open the meeting and go into the executive session? Or should we wait for Victor?
Victor, can you?
Let's wait a minute. He's trying to get on. Victor, you're muted at the moment. If you can hear, you're muted at the moment. There you go. Can you say something so we can hear? Can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
V
I'm going to
I
connect to him.
C T.
Someone want to call him? Does anyone have his phone number?
Let me look it up. Hold on.
If anyone's out there watching, we're trying to open the meeting, but we're waiting for Victor to join us. So
Wait, was that him? Did he just talk?
I thought he said something.
Victor.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you on? Can you?
we heard that, Dan.
Yeah. Can you hear us, Victor?
Can you hear us?
I have a problem here with all my systems. Let me try to fix this quickly. If not, you go ahead and do the motions.
I hear him perfectly now.
Me too.
I don't think he can hear.
I don't think he can
I
hear
don't think he
us,
can
though.
hear us.
Yeah, but the problem is that he needs to do it to join this later and to join the executive session. So let's wait a minute and see if he can get.
I think I'm okay now.
Can you hear
There you
us,
go.
Victor?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, this is a special meeting of the Board of Trustees on September 21st to discuss the comprehensive plan and a couple other things, but we are first going to go into executive session to discuss two matters. One, in accordance with the open meetings law under 105F, we'll be discussing a proposed pending or current litigation relative to the Hampshire litigation, and I will be recused from that matter. But we will also be discussing under 105E collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law, and we'll be taking that first. So I'll participate in that. But as Augie would point out, we have first to open the meeting. Is there a motion to open the meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Whomever. Aye.
All right, now we're going to go into executive session, which I'll repeat this. So we're going to go into executive session in accordance with New York State Open Meetings Law 105F to discuss a discussion regarding proposed, pending, or current litigation relative to Hampshire. I'll be recused from that discussion. We will also be discussing under 105E collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law. We'll be discussing that first. So is there a motion to go into executive session to discuss those two matters?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Augie? Augie, could you call the roll on that vote?
You're muted, Augie.
Trustee Winthrop,
Yes.
trustee Natchez,
Yes.
trustee Lucas,
Yes.
trustee Tofor.
Yes.
All right. We'll be back at around, we hope, 5 o'clock for the regular special meeting. Thank you, and I'll see you in the Zoom.
almost 2 decades now. First as a star running back out of Morehouse College, then as an actor playing a football player on TV. His role in Black Klansman secured his place on the big screen, and Tennant was poised to make him a true movie star. But that's when the pandemic hit. To do what I do, I need some idea to threat me face. Tennant was the type of big budget epic that can make an actor a star. John David Washington plays a spy who must deal with the world going forward and backwards. The buzz for the movie was building before its release was delayed due to the pandemic. You have this plan, you have this idea of what it's going to be like when it comes out. There's a world tour where you can visit different countries all over the globe and introducing the film. So knowing that that wasn't going to happen, knowing that it couldn't happen, was a bit discouraging. However, I think it worked out even better with the magic. Director Christopher Nolan insisted his big budget epic must be seen on a big screen, and that has paid off so far. When people are starved, there's a hankering for entertainment. So I think this couldn't have been better planned. Tenet has grossed more than $250 million in parts of our country and the world. Whereas in theaters have reopened. It's hard to get a thrill these days, but just a fun, natural thrill, you know, and you can get one with this movie in the theaters. How did it feel to you personally when it started to open wide? A great deal of relief. To be honest, as simple as that. Theaters remain closed here in the city, and I saw it in a totally empty theater in Hoboken. But the star is convinced the picture will find an audience big enough to justify its huge.
Augie, you're sharing your email on the screen.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So we're back and we're going to talk about
So what's the goal? Like, what do you want to do? What do you want to get out of this?
I could feel like
Do-do-do-do-do.
Hey, Augie,
Yes.
did we need to vote to close executive session while we were in executive
Oh,
session?
you close executive session, the regular meeting.
In here, okay,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna.
Right, thank you.
Accepted my reminder.
Yep. We good? Is Victor on?
I'm here.
Yes.
Great. Okay, so we are back into regular Zoom, and I need a motion to close executive session.
Kelly, you need to turn on your picture.
Sorry, really? You want to see me?
Yeah,
Okay.
Always a
I'd
pleasure.
really like to see you.
All right. I believe we have a vote to record, but first we will leave executive session.
So moved.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Victor, would you like to report a vote that was held in executive session on the Hampshire matter? I was recused.
Now, there was a vote to authorize the retention of co-counsel on the Hampshire matter, on the Hampshire litigation, to be more specific, and to delegate on the chair of the planning board, Ms. Kathy Savold, the village manager, Jerry Barberio, and myself, the task of doing that retention counsel and work with our village attorney to get it done. So that was passed unanimously.
Thank you, Victor. All right. We will go to our regular meeting. Is Neil on? Neil Desai?
Yes.
Thank you for waiting. I'm sorry we're late.
Oh, no problem.
Thank you.
Would you like to update us on the comprehensive plan?
I'm sorry, I missed the last.
The last
sentence.
Would you like to update us, please?
Oh, sure. Well, I think the idea was to have a discussion about the second draft. We had initially thought about having it. We had a meeting in July, and it was decided to dedicate. We didn't really have much time to discuss it, so the purpose of this this time we have is to discuss the second draft. I think am I able to share my screen?
Yeah.
It's not okay. Let me. I'm going to open up. I just want to kind of run through a few of these. Where's the screen? Here we go. Share my screen. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I should have included the previous memo, which had the link, because that was several months ago. But I'm not sure how much time you want to dedicate to this, so we can obviously be flexible about the going through the different chapters of the plan. But I did propose a flexible suggested agenda. I think I just want to re-emphasize that we did a pretty thorough review during the first full draft on October 4th. And I just wanted to, I sent this in June, July, but I just wanted to make sure you all know that every comment that we received, whether it's from the Board of Trustees, through email, via the public, we recorded every comment, and we have this table here on your screen, which shows the comment on here, who said the comment, what the comment was, and what the response is, meaning how we integrated it into the comp plan or didn't integrate it, or how we made the correction. I mean, there were a wide range of things, from small corrections to fixing things to updating actions to some more substantial topics. And I certainly would want to get to some of the substantial questions or concerns or areas of support that the Board of Trustees would like to look at. Also, just a very quick, this is the agenda I sent you today, June 26th, which has the link. I I included in there. I just wanted to go back because the original RFP for this was written in 2017, the comp plan update. While a long time ago, we're still at this though, but I think you know, it's turning into, I think what I put in this piece over here was that essentially 10 years have elapsed since the prior plan, and the public engagement was done, you know, in 2010 probably for the 2012 plan. So this is really, you know, the original scope was to, you know, update the comp plan from 2012, focus on sustainability and resiliency, and neighborhood character. And given the amount of time that's elapsed, you know, it's really evolved into what is essentially a next iteration of the comprehensive plan. But it also includes a lot of detail on what we've accomplished, what the village has accomplished since 2012. Another thing I wanted to touch upon is these big picture concepts that the comp plan includes. I think there's I mean, this is the place in the comp plan to start, you know, to introduce some of these things. And you already know about, you know, we've talked about some of these, and so I'm going to flip back into today's agenda. So we talked about, there's a series of strategies within the land use and development section about reconnecting downtown to the river. That's looking at the area behind the buildings on Mamaroneck Avenue and between Phillips Park Road, and seeing how that could, it's an idea actually which was started in the 2012 comp plan, and we continued on into this comp plan to see how we can kind of move forward in revitalizing the area behind the buildings and the parking area. The character districts is a kind of another big picture recommendation or framework that we introduce. I think it came out of the moratorium study where we wanted to break down the corridors in Mamaroneck into kind of sections which were more digestible in terms of making decisions. And so the character districts are for the future, I mean, they could be used as to potentially to look at creating new zoning districts, because, you know, there's a lot of places where C1 is applied that kind of look different on the ground now, but you know, but the C1 is applied in a lot of places in the village. And I think the third thing, which is a big picture thing I wanted to also add, is the coastal climate resilience strategies. These are already things that have been in the previous drafts, but I just wanted to reiterate those kind of bigger picture concepts. The next quick item is the agenda from that I sent on September 17th, dated September 17th, includes a summary map. I think with such a thick document, this actually an idea originated from William Long, the new planner. He said, you know, Neil, I was looking for like, this is a really long document. Right, it is a very long document. It would be helpful if there's a summary map or something along those sorts to provide a quick glimpse at what the comprehensive plan contains. And so I created a draft version of this map and tried to highlight, you know, within the different chapters, what are some of the major things that are being accomplished. And then Trustee Tafour had mentioned at our previous work session where we started discussing this about bringing the character district discussion up front as well. And so this map includes the identification of the character districts, you know, that we defined in the comp plan that was initially came from the moratorium study. So you know, I think that's it'll make this it'll make this thick document a little stronger, so that people when they approach it, they'll be able to kind of get a quick glimpse at what are some of the major actions that are covered. And so, you know, I look forward to kind of your comment on this summary map as well. It's anticipated to be located probably in the first page of the draft, you know, somewhere probably before the introduction or so.
I'm sorry, could you go back to the map for a minute?
Sure.
I was trying to read it. I'm trying to, where it says in the middle and where it says 6 and 8, that we have a red area, and I'm trying to figure out how that, we have 3 different arrows, no, 2 different arrows. So I'm not sure what you're trying to depict there. That's with the red.
Oh, so that's probably something that should be clarified, should be made more clear. But the red shading over here is the village downtown character district, which is right now the pretty much your C2 zoning district. That's this overarching red area here. The letters refer to what I want to do is there's certain recommendations which aren't place specific, whereas there are some that are place specific. So for example, the purpose of these 8s, and maybe it's clear to just have a star rather than put these numbers here, but these are the locations where in chapter 8 under transportation, the plan recommends, and actually I think the village is already moving along on redesigning some of these key intersections along Mamaroneck Avenue to be safer. I think it's I think one of them is already, I think I saw a plan for that. The 6 is meant to correspond to chapter 6 here. The downtown reconnects to the river. So this 6 is, I think it might be better to have some sort of, rather than put this numbers floating around in this map, to maybe have it to have a dot or a star or something. The 9 here, it refers to, in chapter 9, there's a recommendation to repair the Harbor Island seawalls and to construct higher seawalls, and so on. So, so what this map simply does is pull out some things that are place specific within the chapters and highlights them. It's really meant to give anybody who's reading this a quick taste of what are some of the types of things they're going to find in each chapter. And so I think the decision about which things to include is something, these are things that I included in my mind just from a variety. I want to kind of cover a range of topics, but I think, for example, the Traffic Commission is working on a number of pedestrian safety assessments. Maybe they want to kind of highlight that on this map, because that's something that's, currently, happening right now. Whereas under chapter 8 right now, we talk about the.
One of the things that strikes me is the map or the illustration is interesting, but it probably would be equally as interesting as to have a second one that says what the recommendations are for these various areas, rather than saying, like legislation, go to chapter whatever, go to, page whatever. If you're trying to do a summary, it might be helpful to have bullet point summaries of the recommendations to achieve that.
Right. I think, let me go to, so there's another.
Neil, I think what Dan's trying to say is similar where I used to work, where a section or a zone or portion of the village would have certain recommendations listed, just like the document I used to have in Hamilton.
Yeah.
A little bit more, advanced than that. But do you know what he's trying to say? The Boston Post Road corridor, which is in pink on your map. What recommendations are listed in that?
Okay. Right. Well, so there's a lot of them, because the idea was to keep this kind of compact.
Okay.
Because once you start going down that route, there's a lot in each chapter.
I understand, but I think part of the issue is the document is so big.
Yeah.
And so heavy.
Right.
That it's very hard for people, unless they understand the whole thing and how it works, to get to understand what it is it's trying to say. So just like there's a summary of trying to point to things that you might want to look at, I think it's important to try and summarize, even if it's just, a short thing on each of the chapters or the districts. It's nicer with a map, because you can actually then see what is being being suggested.
Right.
So people can focus on it very, very quickly, and then, say, see page or see chapter, whatever, or see page, whatever, but I think it would make the document much more user-friendly and actually have it used.
Right. That would be my goal.
It may require 1 page per zone then.
Yeah.
And it may.
That's a good thought. Let me just skip over real quick. So we have this index here. This is so I've already created, this is actually the implementation table that I sent in July. That I know Trustee Tefor talked about this, so there's a couple things. I like the idea of having a map potential page for each chapter, kind of visual thing. I think that's a good idea, because it's one page really can't really get at everything.
Right.
But there's also this index here that we already have this. We have this index on this left side of all the strategies. I think that could come into play. Maybe not. Maybe it could be something at the end where there's an index of all the strategies, so that when somebody wants to consult the document, they can see all every section here. Starting, this is the sustainability section. If we go down to chapter 5, these are the strategies they're going to see. I think there's a way to both do something with this map, something chapter by chapter, visual, and then maybe I think I do want to think about the way of maybe having it adding a page as Dan has suggested, maybe having a 2-page spread in the beginning to be able to come up with a better summary of what people expect. But I'll have to play around and see what comes out of that.
I wonder if with Dan's suggestion, if you did the map again and then created just an index for each colored area, like the Mamaroneck Avenue area, create an index for that just refers people across the comprehensive plan to different areas. So you could look at the map, and if you were interested in the Boston Post Road light pink area, you could look at an index of, parking, zoning, recreation, like everything just listed there for that region of the map. Maybe it's just an idea.
And maybe there's also because only some of the chapters pertain to specific locations. Some of them are village wide. Right. So and I don't know how you would key that, but like for chapter 1, it's the entire village, so it's not going to be keyed to a specific area of the village.
Right. That's right.
But I have to say, I read a lot of planning documents, and I think this is really clearly written, and it's broken down in a way that people can figure out. If they read a chapter at a time, it makes sense to them. Yeah. So I have to say, I think the layout is good, the graphics are good. I think it flows, and so I know there are changes and edits and things we're going to want to fill in, but I think overall, I also reread our previous master plan from 2012. This is much more interesting, much more lively, much more engaging.
I agree, Nora. I have a general comment, which is I just question to what extent we want to add more to the COVID-19 section. I mean, we touched on it in the introduction because it was changing so much of the village life. But it has continued to change. And so, for example, we allowed outdoor dining in parking places in the avenue. And I think, as the cold weather comes, we might want to consider something like allowing pickup parking in front of places. I mean, I just think COVID has changed so much of where our heads are and what direction the village needs to go in. I wonder if we can just beef that up or say this is just an area that's still in flux.
Because even if we get back to Nora.
Sorry, can I make a procedural question? I think if I may, can we wrap up the first conversation and then dive into the chapters? Because I think this second, Kelly's point to the COVID is kind of in the first chapter. So it was kind of the first section we were going to look at. So let me just chime in on the first topic of the map. I think the map is great. I like it very much. I think it also goes, my second comment, my first comment was captured nicely because it describes the village not just as the C1, C2, but in a more dynamic way. And of course, having the second piece of it being the recommendations, and all those recommendations and comments you've laid out are fantastic. But I'm going to repeat something I think I've already said once or twice. which is we really need an executive summary. And of course, it can be done. Once we clean it up, it'll be easier. Probably was not the right time, but this kind of map, maybe 2 maps with the executive summary will be ideal. So I'm going to just stress that again. I think we're really getting to the end point. And if we think this way, then once we talk about executive summaries, you're at least getting to the finishing line. So that was my main comment before I get to the other larger issues. Because I think actually we'll once we see that table that you were showing, we can really clean it up a lot. I think it was better to throw everything in there, but now we can start cleaning section by section. So I now welcome us going back to, I think you were getting to substance, Kelly, and that's the right point. So let's proceed that way.
Sure. That was just more, I mean, I have markings and comments that I just don't think it makes sense to go through page by page. So, Neil, I can send you comments. I know I've done this on former drafts. There's some things are just really picky, but I just wanted to use this meeting as an opportunity to kind of bring up more general comments about things, and maybe other trustees have those comments as well. But as far as like small matters, I just don't think it's a good use of time to.
Right, that was on the agenda. That's but if it's things like minor stuff, let's send me a markup or something, and I can compile those and do that. But yeah, I think the discussion about the pandemic is, and what I had written already, I think is absolutely the type of thing I wanted to talk about during the time we have here.
Great.
So yeah.
Sorry if I said page by page. I think we should follow the agenda. So the first section was chapters 1 to 3. I think, Kelly, you started with the pandemic. If you want to finish off, and then we go through a flash round on major topics.
No, I'm done with the pandemic.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sections 1 to 3 then.
Right. Well, in terms of, I mean, what the content I put together here was from probably April or May.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any points that need to be made on these comments? I mean, right, it's still evolving. You started doing things, differently, like having dining and parking spaces and such. Is there anything? I think we can probably keep in the back of our minds whether any strategies in other parts of the document are kind of have a different look or a different view now, given the pandemic. So that's something to, I guess, keep in mind. But in terms of the content of this chapter, if there's anything, is there any comments or anything need to be said about the content currently as it is in these 2 pages of the pandemic?
No.
There wasn't much at all.
I have a few comments on overall. I'm sorry, somebody was saying something.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just specifically thinking that the section possible village responses to the pandemic.
Yeah.
I think that's where we could, update things to include, that we had outdoor dining.
Okay.
That we might take out parking. I think that's something we should do.
That we just need to remain flexible,
right,
in conjunction with our businesses to keep things alive and vibrant on the avenue.
So there's this paragraph right here. It says possible village, right? Mm-hmm. There's some basic information there, but Neil, I can give you specifics of what Kelly's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Plug them in.
Sure, I can do that. I think because right now these are just generalities of what the village could do, and it'll be good to include what the village has done. Yeah.
And we also, provided spaces for businesses to conduct activities, like especially fitness businesses, local ones, to conduct activities in parks.
Okay.
That was, so we've.
Okay. I have a comment on that section, general comment. I think it is, of course, very important to put it in and to update it, but also it reads different. It has to follow kind of the same format. So as you simplify it, streamline it, maybe even shorten it to take certain things that are probably not necessary now, try to make it feel more like the real chapter, because it really kind of stops the flow. It has to it has to kind of be incorporated into the same format. It really looks very strange. So it has to be worked into breaking it in little pieces or something. So, but it doesn't
Right.
read so kind of stops you from in your flow. So just follow the same format.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of meant to be included under the trend section, but I kind of created a separate section for it, so it kind of floats there.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll say a couple things if we're in chapter 1. I just want, if you go to first page, and I don't mean this is going to be probably my only comment on language, but it has to be what I think it has to be kind of more forward-looking than back-looking. It's a general comment, and I actually can tell you my 3 general comments are: I think we can shorten certain things that are maybe not necessary as we move along, and be more forward-looking, and also be a little bit of be more action-oriented. There was a comment, and we don't need to go there, by one of the commenters, Mark Carell, which he has been involved in this. He works on energy sustainability,
Right.
and he has been involved with the town. And his general comment is where are the recommendations? They're spread out, and he wants somebody that works in this area telling us that. I think we really need to focus on the actions that we'll be taking. I know they are there, but it has to be made clearer. So making the overall document more action oriented, and we can do this as we move along. But I think that's kind of the starting point.
Yeah.
And so here on this first page.
Well, that should go in chapter 4 then, because chapter 4 was our, right, resiliency?
That's the sustainability section.
Or
Yeah.
more environmental sustainability.
I think what Victor, I think the executive, once there's an actual kind of executive summary, that can contain the forward-looking statements to get kind of people engaged in the document, in the beginning. This is this is kind of what the original task was. So, which it's now morphed into something a little different. Although it still stays true what the original task was, which is resiliency, sustainability, residential character. But I see the general point though of something more forward-looking, like what the plan is going to include, what does it have, and I think that's something that's going to come through the executive summary, kind of the sort of executive summary hybrid map and text, something like that. I think it's kind of going to come through that. And then I think the content of this little first page, I think I'll relook at to see, if it should be in a different place, or whether it's just more for like us as for the village to know as what the scope was. But it is important in terms of how the document evolved. So,
Here, the only comment here is, for example, the update tracks the progress, and you can eliminate the Board of Trustees would like to. The Board of Trustees, further, it has a more focused role. So I'll send you those kind of comments. My main observation on the first chapter is on page 3. You go to page 3, to the top right, you have as the main village response to demographics and trends, the TOD. And really the TOD was a little way back. Our main response has been the moratorium study on the house and the affordable housing. So kind of the highlight of what has happened, and actually that TOD was just after the other plan, but it's already like 5 years late. And so not mentioning the moratorium here and the studies and the changes, I think it's a big point. So I would eliminate entirely that top section. Well, not. I would of course leave the second check mark, the sustainability, but the first adoption of TOD, I would change that to the moratorium and,
study.
and the
Yeah.
change in the zoning with affordable housing mandate. That is my main question, my main topic.
I had noted that one too, Victor. Yeah, I put ouch. I put ouch on my Post-it note.
Right. So,
Maybe
That's a
Neil
very
has blanked it out for all of last summer, right?
Oh, no, I remember. That was
No, you remember, right?
interesting study. But yeah, no, the
Yeah.
moratorium study, that's true. I mean, that was the impetus of the moratorium was this,
Right.
population change, new development, school impact. So yeah, that's a good, I'm glad you bring that up. And,
And
makes
that's what-
a lot of sense.
That's what got us off track on the comp plan.
Yeah, right.
For
I
good
have
reason.
one more-
For good reason.
one more comment to wrap up chapter 1. It's on page 9. When you have the village today, you mentioned the concerns, why we started all this.
Mhm.
One of the main concerns was really overcrowding in schools. So you have to I think that's important. The connection with the
check.
school and the overcrowding so that, that's a couple lines, a couple words, but it'll mean a lot.
Yeah.
That's all I have for the first chapter.
They're spending millions on expanding the schools, by the way, to try
Yeah.
to solve the crowding issue. I mean, big money, big
Yeah.
money.
So let me go very quickly. Chapter 2 is 2 pages. And on page 13, I think we're missing something, which is housing. When you go to diversity,
Yeah.
you have 13 developed forces. I think on diversity, we have to add something about housing, affordable housing.
Affordable housing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Page 13. You see, I think on diversity, it's all about housing. So consider that, see if it fits.
So you're saying it already includes housing, but what did you think was missing from it?
Affordable.
Oh,
Affordable.
affordable. Got it. Understood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The housing here, actually. So that's why I said housing and affordability.
Mhm.
Actually, to the affordability, housing, affordability, and mobility. I didn't see mobility in the environmental piece. So make a note of that, see if it's included. I think
So these
those
are
will.
okay. So these are the original.
These are the original with your additional expansion. So it's kind of the pieces that you've
Right.
elaborated further.
Okay, got it.
Right. Because we're keeping the same objective, which is, I think it's a nice thing. It shows continuity. It shows that we've not reinvented the wheel. We're moving forward, just focusing things better. But I think those two things are missing as you break it down.
Got it.
So housing, affordable housing, and mobility, if you can fit those in there, will be great. Okay. That's it for me on the first 3 chapters. So that's part 1.
And chapter 3 is the data, data section, and we did add. So as I mentioned, anything in red was things that we have been added to the document since the previous draft, and so your document should have that. Any new. This is data that Greg had provided, Greg Cutler, before he left these tables. And was there any other comments about chapters 1 to 3?
Well, I had a question about because we're so close to the census information and I certainly don't want to hold the comp plan until the census information is circulated, but should we make a provision to incorporate it when it comes out as a standalone chapter, as a revised chapter?
I think, that's a good question. I mean, who knows? I think that they may extend the census period. I'm curious to know how the response rate is.
Our response rate in the village is very good.
Okay. Oh, that's right.
And I think they're locking it down at the end of this month.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's done.
But my question is, when we started this process, we thought this plan would be completed before the census was even undertaken.
Right.
Yeah.
So next year we'll be getting some of the census data. Is there something we should be doing to just figure out how to incorporate that you know, I mean, people always say a comprehensive plan is a living document. It seems like
Right.
we should be thinking about the census information. You know, maybe it would be 2022 because it'll take a while for them to process it.
Right,
But-
right.
Well,
16 and
perhaps,
17.
if I may, perhaps the village board may want to, have a comprehensive plan update, in 2022, 2023 to include the census and make sure that we're on track with the goals and everything that's identified in this plan.
Is it just these 2 pages, Neil, 16 and 17?
15
Right.
through 21, essentially.
Okay.
I tend to not, sometimes you'll see plans which just drop every single piece of data. I kind of look for the critical ones that tell you
Yeah.
something. So
Nora, nothing prevents us from doing that in-house after we get the information next year.
I'm just saying, maybe that should just be something that we actually adopt as part of this, that
Okay.
we know we're going to do it.
Okay.
update. Because yeah, some of this data comes from, essentially, 2010 was the last major census, and then everything
Right.
else here is American Community Survey, kind of sample data, 2016. So,
Right.
right. So I think that there's huge value in the 2020. So I think that's an important step to relook at the data. Okay, so chapter 4, I think you all know that I worked with the CFTE Committee for the Environment closely and had a lot of review of that draft, of drafts of this chapter. And I think, what does my agenda say? Chapter 4 is kind of on its own here on my agenda here. So I think it goes into, there's a couple things happening here. There's, we wanted to create something that was not just based on climate smart communities, because they have a framework they offer for towns to follow. But I think the whole idea of having we did this survey for environmental sustainability to figure out what the priorities are among residents. Clean, and over here we see essentially the priorities where they came out was, and they're organized by the priority levels we heard back from clean water, clean air, and so on and so forth. This section is organized based on what the general priorities were in terms of topic areas, and then it integrates within the strategies, and there's a lot of them within the strategy. It integrates ones that are climate smart ones as well, so that while we're trying to meet the designations of climate smart communities, you will be able to also just know which activities are also both the village and also recommended by the climate smart communities, and we just kind of say that by the CSC. So this covers a lot of ground, a lot of different topics, goes into a lot of details, but at the same time, I do want to talk about this for a few minutes. Any questions, suggestions, any updates of new initiatives potentially that have, I know the food waste composting data needs to be updated because that seems to be very successful.
Yeah.
So it's one piece that I'm aware of. But any comments or questions on this large section?
Yeah, I had a couple, Neil. On page 44, we talk about the public water quality reporting tool. Was that through Excella? Was that?
Or I'm sorry, the question, what was the question you had about that?
This is a question for Jerry, I think, but the public water quality reporting tool, residents that spot any problems can use the online tool to report problems to the village. That wasn't the Excella piece, was it?
I think it might have been, but they can also report it just by sending us an email.
Yeah, I would just modify that because we don't really have that. It was supposed to be an app. It was going to be very cool.
Yeah.
It kind of went away.
It was a see-fix click that we're
Yeah.
not doing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then, but I also thought there were two things that the village has done that are important, which were we bought a camera truck to look at our stormwater lines, and we, with the town, purchased a vacuum truck that we're using, or or a camera truck. I mean, sorry, we got a camera truck and a vacuum truck. We purchased the vacuum truck, and with the town, we got a camera truck to look at the lines. So those were investments that the village has made that I think deserve to be.
I'll make sure we've noted them in the previous where we review some of the accomplishments.
Okay.
There's a lot in this page 43 about the sewer, and I'll just make sure that those are included.
Thank you.
And I like that on 32 and 33 where you actually put comments from people about this, because you know, this is you know, sustainability can be very vague to some people and can be kind of some people think it's sort of too expensive, especially with the budget crunches we're having. So I think it's really great to see that there are people who took the time to express that they think that that's something that's important for the community.
Yeah, that was a good little survey. I think we got some nice, good meaningful comments out of that, and that helped with the course of this document. So.
Keep in mind there, page 44. You're done. I go back. I think Kelly already mentioned page 44. I think that's, and I do this more as an illustration. I think, and because I'll send some comments. I have a lot of notes. Here's one where you have this on the sewer. On the sewer, it says we're doing only 4% a year. That was probably several years ago. We are now actually, you know, almost completing the investigation. Actually, the prior page 43 says of what we've only done, like 34% of the sewer system. We're investigating the rest. We're now, Jerry's finalizing who will do the final investigation, and we have to be done in 2 years, I would say. I think that needs to be in line with with the consent order we have. Essentially, it's going to be between 2022 or at least by 2025, which is more in line with the others. The way it reads here is we're going to be doing this by 2030, and that is not accurate and also kind of way out. So we could fine tune it to 2025 and explain that we're finalizing. We're getting closer to the end of the investigation and beginning the actual rehabilitation. So it's not your fault because things have been moving quite a lot in the last 6 months. So we can update you with that.
I just realized I can make comments right on the PDF. So I'm doing it right now. That's good. I've been using my hand trying to write.
So Neil, after our next meeting, which we get together on next Monday, after that meeting, I'll be able to update you a little bit more, actually a lot more, on the investigation timeline, as well as the remainder of the slip lining. We're not really doing it as an annual rate. We're doing it in large chunks because of economies of scale.
Okay.
So I'll be able to update you on that, and you can translate that however you want. Just talking about.
There we go.
To wrap it up, I do like something there, which is the targets are now in line with it's really the Sustainable Development Goals, which I think now everybody knows, and even New York City now has adopted, reporting on Sustainable Development Goals, and countries, many other cities in Europe, and they're using it. So I like that we do, if possible, because it's not just us, just throwing out a number because we want to, but when possible, you point to 2030, 2025, when you're talking about targets, which is section B. And then you go to the actions, which are really what you're going to do to comply with that. So that format, I think it's very much the trend, the way to do it, and synchronizes us with what's happening. That coupled with the recommendations, then has a very action-oriented plan, which is, I think, what everybody's asking for. So we can fine tune those small things. Some comments I can throw your way, but I think that structure is just really good.
Neil, it's the second year in a row that we haven't had to fog the high mosquito incident areas. So,
which
at the very bottom of the action C.
Oh, here we go. Right.
Bottom of 44.
Right.
So we've essentially figured out a way to eliminate fogging
Ah, great.
and doing it with a more integrated pest management approach using, bacteria-based products.
Great. All right.
Gotcha. Yep.
So this goes on, and obviously there's connections between some of these, like in the clean air, the transportation ones with chapter 8. So I kind of identify those in this section. I think there's a few things that updates that people have given me in this section that I've already added and read here. I think Ellen Silver had given me a few things to update, so I added that to the section. Any other anything else to talk about for this section?
No. For my board's information,
Here.
it looks like the town is moving towards what the Larchmont model, which is all electric blowers at some point. So
amongst the municipal equipment you're talking about, or
yeah, at municipal, well, homeowner, residential,
right,
And landscapers?
the landscapers, but then they're also pushing for us, the municipals,
right.
park employees, to do the
Right.
same, which of course we can do. So,
Right.
but that'll be a decision of the
yeah.
board if they want to do that.
So this is the first place where we see the capital budget injected, I guess is probably not the right word, but entered into the plan. And so again, what I did was I took the spreadsheet and I mean, it's tiny. I think there's maybe a better way to showcase this, but if people are curious about the details, but I sorted the sheet that Jerry had given you into and labeled them according to what strategy they fit best under. And so you'll see essentially every chapter where we have this at the end, we have the capital budget included. And that was kind of an addition we did prior to in between the drafts.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really good. And even if it changes as we move along, it was a reflection of when we did it. So we can, yeah, so I think there could be minor changes even next week, but I think it reflects where we are now. So you'll have that connotation and we can check versus what we did. Okay, that's good.
Okay, so I think I put chapter 5 and 6 because they're the land use chapters, residential neighborhood, and chapter 6, land use and development. There may be some updates. I tried to follow along in the interims with the work sessions and what's going on, so I think there may be some things that need to be updated. But first, I just wanted to open up for if you want to start with chapter 5 or 6, whichever one you want to talk about first. I think it's essentially similar to what you saw in the previous version, except we did do one addition because in terms of the trends that's happening throughout the country, we talk about teardowns, but we didn't talk about what's also happening. There's upzoning in a lot of places and accessory dwelling units being promoted and adopted in a lot of places. Most recently, Princeton adopted a pretty, I don't know, it was an ADU ordinance, but I think there is an addition. I think so. How this all affects in this chapter, I think the thing that we added to this chapter since previous versions was, then this is an important thing I wanted to discuss, is considering permitting accessory dwelling units. And the recommendation is as a means to increase the supply of affordable housing options, explore the possibility of permitting accessory dwelling units in parts of the village, and this is a big a big topic to get into, I think, and I wanted to see what your thoughts are about that. I have individual thoughts about that, but I wanted to hear what your thoughts are in incorporating this. This recommendation to consider this in the future, or actually it is, in the shorter term, according to this
I think it's a big topic, and I think a lot of people would be opposed to it, but I have had several people make this recommendation to me. And I would tie it in, I would consider tying it into the next chapter, because for years, there has been a tendency towards, towards letting communities or neighborhoods that are local or National Register landmarks, mostly local landmarks, have a little more flexibility to use an outbuilding for residential. So you're keeping you're maintaining what the community looks like, and then giving them some development options, which is sort of what we did, which is really what we did for the religious housing, for the religious properties, for allowing adaptive reuse of religious properties. So that that might be one way of doing it, to tie it to preserving the community by allowing to make units in existing spaces.
This is a living units above garages like Arthur Fonzarelli in Happy Days.
That could be one way. I'll show you the diagram here.
Isn't that a great reference, Kelly?
This diagram.
I got it.
So this shows the different types. There are additions, over the garage, basement, detached. Most people think about detached, but it's not just detached. And I just would like to say one thing about it is that I'm not, as a means to, add affordable housing, in theory, sure, but in practice, I mean, these are these are development projects on a small scale, but nonetheless, they're development projects. And so as a means to have a quantifiable impact on on affordability, that's a question I have still in my own mind. But I think it's because every town is looking at that as a potential strategy, and every town has their own conditions. I think it is a way. A lot of towns have put in different ways. Some have gone as far as Princeton, which I think is a little reckless in that they just adopted an ordinance which blew me away, because they allowed the accessory dwelling units to be sold separately from that. Really was like, wow. I was like, amazing. What? I was like, that's crazy almost in a lot of ways. That's huge problems.
That is crazy.
But that's just one extreme. I think a number of towns, have restricted in terms of either you could be an aging, a senior property owner who wants to be able to have another means of income, or only certain seniors can live in the units and that sort of thing. So there's various degrees of regulations within them. And I think on a individual household by household scale, I think it makes sense in some ways to allow the ideal of having somebody to allow their parents, but oftentimes that's just for a short time because they're not going to live forever. So, but anyways, there's just some kind of things I want to throw in there, because this is a big topic, and that's why it's a consider. It's not like a do this, but a consider the possibility of this, and maybe in certain parts of the village.
Well, there's actually an example of that right now at the zoning board, where there is a 2-family house that's a pre-existing non-conforming condition in a single-family zone, and the property owners want to expand their unit, and to do so, they have to get a variance because they would have to remove the other unit, and they don't want to remove the other unit because it's basically an affordable housing unit for longtime residents who are renting it and who've been the tenants in the entire time that this family has bought the property. So that's a very, specific example of the conversation that's happening at our zoning board right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think, Neil, this is a topic that's happening on the fringes. It's not official. It's not on our agenda. We're not, officially looking at this, but it's happening on the fringes, and it's something that's going to end up on our agenda. We're going to end up looking at this.
So I don't know this, but the county has a model ordinance that they'll share with municipalities. They wouldn't have put that together, Neil, if they didn't have other municipalities that have already done this. Do we have other municipalities? Do you know of?
Right, and I should have looked at Westchester more specifically, but I know. I remember Greg and I talked about this. He had sent me the model ordinance, but I didn't get into the details about which towns have any towns yet.
Yeah, because the county wouldn't have gotten involved if they didn't think that there was a way, if they didn't think there was a benefit to a model ordinance, for villages and towns and cities.
So
okay, we'll look at that.
So all this is a public meeting and Glenn has his hand up, so I'd like to hear from him.
Mr. Glenn.
Yes, good evening.
Hi, Glenn.
The subject of the county plan, understand, that was part of a court order through HUD about lack of affordable housing in Westchester and the way HUD funds were moved. And there was an order that Westchester had to put in, certain towns and villages had to put in affordable housing. And also part of that order was they had to have a comprehensive plan put into place to increase affordable housing in Westchester. And that's one of the reasons that plan was put together by Westchester County.
Okay.
Well,
to go further on the subject, accessory use, Nora, you're absolutely right. It's before the a Board of Appeals. You have a family that's trying to stay here in Mamaroneck that's just trying to increase the size of their house. I came out for it, but understand the way the law is written now, the Board of Appeals is seriously looking, not, they're not sure, which outweighs, because the way the law is written, we're trying to turn all non-conforming two-family houses that are in zoning for one-family houses into one-family houses, and we're not looking to increase non-conformity. Therefore, this is what the board has to look at. The board has to come up with the economic impact of diversity when you put in all these zoning laws. You put in a lot of zoning laws recently, and basically you're not going to have any affordable housing built in the village because they're too restrictive. And you also took a giant chunk of the village and basically put it off limits, which is also not fair. You can't simply say that we're going to allow auxiliary use of properties, but we're going to stick it all in Washingtonville, because you've recently had the pushback on that. Why is it always in Washingtonville? So at some point, you're going to have to put together a commission or a committee to seriously look of how you can put together affordable housing to maintain some affordable housing in the village. Because basically, even Washingtonville, the houses now go for $500,000. You just had a big revalve up in Mamaroneck. In fact, you might want to upgrade this. For the most part, Mamaroneck properties went up anywhere from 5 to 20%. Unless you were the wealthiest of the wealthy houses, they came down a little bit. But the houses that were your 400 to 600,000 houses, and I'm sure Augie has the preliminary report of the Rye Town revalve. Most of those properties in Mamaroneck have, over the last 3 or 4 years, went up significantly. And I know over in my neighborhood, we just had a house that 3 years ago was 500,000, just sold for 640,000. Please don't tell the Mamaroneck town adjuster on me. So it is getting tougher and tougher. And whether it's auxiliary uses, the garage as a small apartment, even in Mamaroneck, upgrade your border laws, make it more so you can have single person accessible apartment in, in other words, in grandma's house, the room upstairs, because the way your border room law is written right now, the person has to have total access to somebody's home. And no offense, grandma does not want a 19-year-old, no matter how well they seem to be, with complete access to their home. I don't think anybody does. So, once you get this down and everything, this is something you really have to put together, a housing commission, to really see how you're going to address the economic impacts of what you did and what you can do to keep diversity in the village. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn.
I would say, I think I'm looking at a model ordinance from November 2019 from the county, and it's just a couple of pages that sort of give guidelines as to what communities should think about. And, you know, I think that we should be at least exploring this in the comprehensive plan. And I'm not sure that it will be something that will be palatable to the entire community, but I do think it's something that we should explore and figure out how to leave it in the comprehensive plan in such a way that it's not a fait accompli, but something that we're going to be thinking about.
Yeah, that we're aware of the issue. Hey, Neil, I just wanted to add on page 77, where you talk about studies, actions, and accomplishments. This is hot off the presses news that the village just passed a law to encourage 100% affordable housing developments by reducing or waiving the recreation fund fees that would be paid. So that's another accomplishment.
I think I would suggest, I'll make sure that's added that in the previous section under accomplishments. I think I would suggest, based on what I'm hearing, I would suggest that this be reworded to be more kind of investigative about it, like consider also impact, not just say, explore the possibility of permitting dwelling units, but just, explore the impacts, because he's talking about, in my mind, I was thinking about new units being added, whether it's a garage, but there's also the non-conformings that have issues. And so I think this should be reworded a little bit to be more of kind of like studying impacts, consideration, cover a little bit more than just exploring the idea of exploring just the idea of simply permitting them.
Okay. All right, if we can move along.
6. So this is where there's a lot of discussion about the moratorium study. We introduced the map of the character districts, which emanated from a way to discuss the parts of the village into more kind of into discrete pieces, which seem to go well together. So it reviews the text amendments to the codes. That was the result of that. PLLC 1, PLLC version 11B. And I think, so really the rest of the section is, this section is devoted to each character district, just discussing them and setting the foundation for, I mean, there are some strategies in there. I think to get into a lot more detail in each one is kind of probably going a little bit beyond a comp plan, but at the same time, I think it's worth relooking at some of this because of pandemic and some of the things that have been accomplished maybe. So yeah, the rest of this chapter just examines each character district. It talks about I think we talked about that downtown to the river project, Phillips Park Road. I was just looking at the proposed development of along Phillips Park Road that's at the planning board right now. It was interesting to see that happening at the edge of Phillips Park Road. So these you've already seen these recommendations. There's nothing new in here. I think there's a few places where there's some pieces of new. For example, considering a special permit for private recreation uses in along Mamaroneck Avenue towards the where the grocery store is, and that section of that character district. There's other there's a few other places where added in special permits to kind of expand the potential uses in certain character districts. So any questions, any comments, or anything you wanted to get into in more detail within this long but important section? It's pretty thick. And oh yeah, the one important thing is I think this is a good comment. I think Trustee Natchez and several other people had made about the Maritime Center, and so I added to this whole character district what I call the working waterfront. That's kind of its own character district, and so pages 123 touches on, actually, I think also the property owner or the owner of the business also wrote in to talk about that, you should, what about us? And so there's the most that's been added to this section since the previous version is this working waterfront section. And those are the three zoning districts that are currently MC1 and MC2. That's the working waterfront. So
I'll generally say this. Can you hear me? Because I
Yes.
changed to.
yep, I can hear you.
This is central to the update,
Yeah.
focusing on the different neighborhoods and more detail. So a lot of work has gone here, and it's really a centerpiece of the update. So I want to commend you for really kind of taking that field, making, in contrast with the other plan, which I have nothing against, but it was more, it read more of a consultant's plan. Really, this one integrates more of the feel of the village, not because it's been the purpose of doing it. So I really like this chapter a lot.
Right, great.
Thank you.
Chapter 7 and historic preservation. I think a couple of minutes on that. I think has there been any? I think the board's been pretty busy with a lot of things. I think Trustee Lucas had been. You had mentioned a few things in the past, and previously I think it wasn't anything to change, but I think you picked up on. I think you had looked at one of the examples that was featured in here, the Kingston example, and
Yeah.
but any other, we added a little bit on the capital budget. So that's really the only thing that's changed is the addition of the capital budget, and we highlighted the community counseling center as one of the projects that is.
Thank you. There was also a
Yep.
cemetery cleanup that occurred that I think was significant. I don't know if that's in here.
Is that the Delancey?
Yeah.
What's the name of the cemetery?
I think it's Delancey.
Delancey, in the town,
Oh, in the
town of
okay.
Mamaroneck.
Okay.
Town of America. It's
All right,
it's all
leave that out.
the town.
Anything to talk about in chapter 7?
Neil, I gave you the numbers of what we spent on the community counseling center, right?
Yeah, there. I mean, at least what we have here in the spreadsheet, we have the structural repairs and the ductwork. Was there any more beyond that?
Well, we already did. We did almost $500,000 in renovations, new roof outside, new, what's that wall called, Nora?
It's a parapet.
And some other improvements to kind of seal up the building. We did the repointing. I'll send you some information on that.
And that building is in the process of being listed on the National Register.
Yeah.
Oh,
Although
okay.
it was a graduate student who was working on it, and she, the pandemic kind of slowed her up, but I believe that that's going to get completed. If not, we can do it.
Okay. And I think I have here something adding a new photo to it. In progress, national.
Yeah.
You had given me some good pictures.
I think we provided you some new photos with the copper flashing. You'll see it. It's brand new copper flashing. You'll know which photos they are.
Okay. Chapter 8, transportation. I think I know I had this paragraph I added in here, kind of updates. I mean, it seems like there's been a lot of ongoing activity that probably needs to be updated even more. I think there's something coming up on the 25th. There's another walking assessment, I understand.
There is.
Yep.
That's for Prospect Avenue.
That's right.
And
there was a walking safety assessment around Florence Park the weekend. I guess it was the 11th, September 11th. And I can get information from the traffic commissioners if that report gets written. But yeah.
We did Old Forks Road and Grand, I think, too. I don't know if that's in here. Before the pandemic. I think it was.
Oh, right.
I think that's still not written up though, right?
That's right.
Right. That was a big one. And then every tree in that location fell down, so. It's different.
That was a big one. And our traffic consultant, Matt Carmody, was really involved in that and had some recommendations. So that was a significant safety assessment.
That was a big one.
I think an important question. Now, there's a lot of content in here. It gets into this basic stuff about functional classification, traffic flows. There's the moratorium study traffic analysis. We put in that. So there's a lot of kind of also background data. I just wanted to make sure that I think the strategies actually adequately capture the walking assessment work, because I think essentially here it's under 8.4. I think it maybe needs to be expanded a little bit. You said right here it says develop implementation plans for pedestrian safety improvements for North Barry and Halstead, American School and Orienta. Is there more that needs to be added to this based on the things you've been working on in the Traffic Commission?
I think for Mamaroneck Avenue School, I think we're looking at doing that in multiple phases. And we got a CDBG grant for phase 1 of that project. I can send you some details on that tomorrow, Neil.
And Fenimore, we have a design, Neil, for Fenimore and Prospect.
Thank goodness.
Yep. Neil, and the county included a safety redesign for Waverly and Mamaroneck Avenue as requested. So when they start doing their repaving, they'll be doing that.
So that's the one over here where you already have.
Oh, that's it. That's it right there. Sorry,
right.
I didn't see it. Yeah, that's it.
And I remember seeing, I think, a plan. You have a concept plan for the big one at Bishop, Halstead, Mount Pleasant. So
Yeah.
okay, so just
Yeah, we
making sure
do.
that's in here.
There's also going to be a traffic reanalysis regarding Washingtonville and the closing of the bridge and what the impact and whether that stays or not.
Right.
Dan Sonoff, how many new charging stations did we get approved for? Do you recall? I can't
I
recall.
believe it was 5. It was 4 or 5.
We got approved for 5 new charging stations for.
Charging stations. All right, I can add that to the. I think there's a place in this chapter 4 that we do that, so I can add that there. You're still on the Vision Zero action plan. That's strategy.
I like that walking idea, the Oktoberfest.
Isn't that nice?
Oktoberfest, yeah, that was one person in Ridgewood, New Jersey organized that, and it's become a fourth annual one is happening this year. I went on one of them. It was such a great concept.
Atlanticare did that, Neil. Atlanticare did that where the hospital system down south, they put it together a contest where you set a goal and then you achieve that goal. It was just during the month of October for some reason. I don't know why. I guess it's walking month.
Maybe it's the cooler weather, doesn't
cooler weather, right? People,
isn't that like the walk back to school? Isn't that the walk to school month? That's the walk to school weeks are usually in October.
I don't know.
I thought they did them in the spring as well.
Well, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, it is.
Is there any the county beeline bus redesign process? Has that come up? Has there been any outreach to the village or anything?
No, they haven't shared anything. You remember Hernani?
No, I haven't heard anything about that.
Hernani went to the county. He's the Deputy Commissioner of Transportation.
Okay.
So I might be able to send him a quick email and see if he has anything on that, but they've been working on that for a long time. I guess as the pandemic got in their way.
It is, as far as I know, they're still working on it. They haven't come to any conclusions as of yet.
Chapter 9. So 9 and 10 go together. I think what I want to. I think the biggest comments came from just making sure we include 1986 harbor management plan policies. The WAC 4 report came up a lot in the comments that we had, and so we made sure to include that and touch on the progress of those actions, which you did here on page 159. And then I think in terms of the one kind of, so I know there's so the one thing where the comp plan, I know there's I saw on the previous agenda that there's a committee to look at year-round recreation in Mamaroneck, which I think kind of it does link up with this comp plan, because there is a strategy to I think it's in the actually chapter 10 to look at a comprehensive parks, recreation, open space plan. And I think one thing that an important consideration, I think, given looking at the sea level rise thing, is the future of Harbor Island Park. There was a master plan done, which is now outdated. Maybe there's some good ideas in it, but now we're in a different age with sea level rise and storms. And my question is, Harbor Island Park is obviously a huge, important recreational amenity for people, soccer fields and such. But how long can it sustain that way, given the potential for more flooding and sea level rise? And so that's why when I talk about kind of big picture thoughts, I mentioned here one of the strategies here is to produce a new new master plan for Harbor Island Park, because if and that's going to be an interesting juggling act if you go that route, to think about, if we don't have this space, if we need to dedicate this space to coastal protection or something, this pieces of Harbor Island Park, kind of like we did in, I think, Beacon, New York. There's an example of Beacon, New York that I gave in here on page 162. How they had a different situation is because that used to be formerly industrial land, which they converted into a park, which has coastal adaptation things designed into it, designed to flood aspects, where parts of the park are designed to flood. And so the thinking behind this whole strategy is, is what is the future of Harbor Island Park, given its current role as a recreation amenity, but also its potential to be, undergo more damage with sea level rise and storms. And so the thinking that goes throughout this, it's kind of all related in section 9 and 10. It's, if that's the case, then it becomes more important to think about this, think about recreation holistically throughout the whole village. If you have the potential to lose recreation amenities in Harbor Island. And so that's kind of some of the thinking that goes along in chapters 9 and 10. And that's kind of a big thing I just wanted to point out in this chapter and get some comments on. I think it was kind of hard to separate out, which section it should be in, but I try to make connections between the two because they're very related. But in terms of the whole resiliency piece, which is one of the things that, I did include all the things that the planning department had done in its 2017 list of strategies. I included that in chapter 9. So that includes, all these things: undertake the Harbor Island Seawall Project, sea level tracking. So, I've kind of gone through the planning department's list of recommendations from the 2017 presentation, but kind of added on that. So any thoughts on that?
I will just add that one of the things we have at Harbor Island Park is year-round tennis. And we did have a tennis committee look at whether year-round tennis could continue there. And it ended up being beyond the scope of what they could do. So we kind of tentatively extended things, but we've now formed a new year-round recreation committee that's going to be filled with former tennis committee members, some recreation committee members, and some other members of the public to really look at this issue of the availability of year-round recreation in the village. And it's really is going to use as its launching point the year-round tennis courts and where is that headed?
Yeah. Okay.
Might be actually good to have somebody from the Committee for the Environment on that.
It might.
Because I think flooding is that graphic on page 164 is startling. It's just really startling, and I think that's
the worst. Yeah.
Yep.
That's where it's coming from. Some of this, a lot of this kind of thinking.
That's what we need to think about.
Yeah.
I mean, we do.
consider purchasing properties that are repeatedly flooded.
Green
Explore, you know.
That's
so-
Blue Acres. Jersey has Blue Acres program
Right, right.
to do that. I don't think we have anything like that here.
What is that, Jerry?
Huh?
What is Blue Acres?
Blue Acres is money available through an open space fund that the state runs that allows municipalities to purchase properties that are repeatedly flooded.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the problems we have, especially in Westchester County, is that a lot of times the financial calculation, the cost benefit is based on a pre-disaster full market value. And because housing values are so high in Westchester County, it's very difficult for properties in the village of Mamaroneck to have a 1.0 cost benefit. We ran into this problem a lot after Hurricane Irene, and to a lesser extent Sandy, but definitely Irene. There were a lot of issues with meeting the business case, and I've spoken to our state elected officials about it, and they agree that it's an issue, but I don't know how they can change the formula to address that type of an issue in Westchester.
So Daniel, this is a pot of dedicated money, Green Acres money, that they just carved out Blue Acres out of this Green Acres pot and started giving it away to municipalities to purchase properties.
Yeah, I don't know if they had the equivalent in Westchester, in New York State, we have the hazard grant program.
I don't know if they do.
It's a difficult situation.
Yeah.
Right, without a doubt, I can imagine New York State at some point following in that lead, New Jersey's lead. So I just want to point out that there's great data that the Rec Department gave me on all the parks and what they've improved and what they want to improve. That's in chapter 10.
Great.
That was good data we got from them, and that should help in the if you don't have, I mean, you probably already have it too for the year-round recreation committee. I'll add a note about the year-round recreation committee. Probably those were here actually. Year-round rec committee, and what's the status of the dog permitting dogs on leash or I think
coming up a week from tomorrow.
Okay. Follow up on that.
Just to top up the issue of allowing some areas to flood, I think that taking from Beacon and from other places, I think that concept, which you illustrate well, should be reflected in what to do about. For example, that area of the harbor that it's flooding, we can continue, lifting and lifting, but it's going to flood. So kind of a combination of walls with allowing it to come in and recede. I think that would be important to consider. So keep making sure it's in there.
And I think so. Yeah. Any other?
Well, one thing we haven't addressed is I'm not sure is the Army Corps plan.
Oh, right. That's a big one.
Yeah, that's a big one. Well, yeah, I mean, it's, I think.
I mean, I mentioned in the report, but right, that's it. I mean, I
mean, we basically got, I guess it was, I don't even remember the month because everything's sort of like Groundhog Day, but it's not likely to, it was rejected.
Right.
And so it seems like we're back to square one. Right. Well, so we've been pushing, but maybe a different administration, but the people, our congressional representatives who have pushed this for us, Nita Lowy and Elliot Engel, will not be in Congress next year. So it's unclear as to whether we'll get back even to the tentative stage we were previously. I don't know how we address that, but I think we should talk about what our efforts have been to try and persevere in moving it forward.
Actually, I had a comment on that. It's way at the beginning on page 5, You don't need to go there, but it does say, when it mentions responses on flooding, it says Army Corps of Engineers, and it says authorization was secured to move forward. I think that sounds, we need to be clear, not misleading, and say authorization was secured, but congressional approval for the funding is required in order to move forward. So that really has to go up front, and those kind of pieces have to be picked up with an executive summary. So make a note, and it's on page 5.
Yep,
One
bottom.
of the comments I had for you.
And maybe Dan
On
and
the
Jerry
edits.
can kind of provide a status report as to where we actually are.
We had, you know, our US senators, which were both pretty powerful people, try to push for this, Neil. So we have some communication between them and the White House. We can share that with you.
Okay.
I'll be able to get my fingers on it, but Dan Sarnoff can get his fingers on it.
I think it should probably be, you know, incorporated into a strategy to continue to, since it's no longer, it's authorized, but not funded, continue to, you know, lobby for the funding.
Yeah.
So
we had those two push it pretty hard, and it just won't go anywhere.
I think we also need to suggest maybe reworking the plan so it can be funded.
Interesting, right.
But that
Make it
involves getting somebody to fund reworking the plan.
Right.
I understand that, but if
Yeah.
you're not getting the
No,
first
it's-
phase because
Right.
it's been determined not to be economic, cost effective, then you have to change what you're doing to become economic cost effective.
Mr. Sarnoff,
Yes, Mr. Barbario.
the grant committee, the internal grant committee that discussed it, could that funding, that new grant where we have the letter of interest that is due by the 30th, could those grants help us rework it like Dan is asking?
I don't know. I mean, I think the study itself cost something like $7.5 million.
Oh my God. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Plus, it's an Army Corps project.
I hope that number's wrong. But
Now,
it requires federal authorization for them to go back to actually, the Army Corps itself doesn't have money to go back and revisit the plan.
and it has to be the Army Corps revisiting it, not us.
That's too bad. All right.
All right. Are we finished with our comp plan discussion? I'm missing a family event at this point, so.
My last request is just this timeline I proposed.
Yep.
Coming, about a week turnaround to get changes in kind of a new summary, executive summary hybrid type of thing. But at the same time, though, I might need some more time because I think folks have some markups they want to send me as well, corrections and things, such language. I will that I want to also take those as well when you can either email me or however it should be organized. But I should certainly receive all of them, any markups you have. And but other than that, I guess I don't know if we're ready to pick dates, but I just put in some just placeholders for potentially February, maybe January, February final public hearing. But I don't know. That's just a thought. But I just want to make sure we're also obviously thinking about when to wrap this up.
So my guess is that based on the previous comprehensive plans adoption in 2012, there will be a lot of public comments on it. So I think we need to factor that into having time for the public to make the comments at one of our Board of Trustees meeting, and I don't see that on the schedule.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Comment on the revised second draft as opposed to comment at the end. That might be.
Right.
It might take up more time in the process, but be better off as the final adoption.
I think this may also need to go to HTZM for an advisory opinion on consistency.
Yeah.
So that's going to be another month to 2 months there.
Well, what I'll do is I'll give you a definite date when I can complete create the next version,
Okay.
which there'll be some comments that we can, especially for the the first part that I create. But yeah, I can give you a date. I'll give you a date of when I can finish that, and then we can think about public comment period and having a meeting to discuss.
Does the board want us to insert some dates in November, December, January, February, and then kind of
Yeah, work it. Yeah, I
like
think
we did
so.
last time? That worked pretty
I
well.
think so.
That
Yeah.
might make sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just make sure we pick a date where there can be public comment at a board meeting and we don't try to have a public hearing or something else.
Okay.
Because, and maybe there won't be a lot of public comment, but the last time there was substantial public comment.
Okay.
And it has been a while.
I think there will be, Nora. I think you're right on
Yeah.
that.
When you say a lot, it was like 2 hours, 3 hours, that kind of a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I met Victor Tafour because we were both commenting at a public meeting.
Okay.
And it was
it's
so
extensive.
long, we started talking.
Well, we had a summit. We called the Comp Plan Summit, and that's when we had pretty good attendance, and that went for like an hour to 2 hours probably. And then we have email comments as well that people send.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Are we moving on?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, can I say one more
Neil,
thing about
progress.
comment? Just
Neil,
I would say that, can I say one more thing? I would
Yes, of
say that
course.
this comprehensive plan has done a much better job of incorporating comments throughout the process than in the one in 2012. So I think, I think we have been respectful of the public all the way through.
Yeah.
Agreed. Thank you, Neil.
Sure. You're welcome. All right.
Okay.
Good night.
Thank you, Neil.
Yeah.
All right. If we can go to the new business resolution authorizing execution of the intermunicipality agreement for 203 Hummocks Road sanitary sewer system. I know there were some emails about this today, back and forth.
Mhm.
Jerry, do you want to give us a little update on this?
All right, so the agreement, I think, needs just a little fine tuning, but Trustee Natchez has a couple of good questions that came up, and I appreciate that he gave me some time to try to run these down. One question was, is the line a high pressure? The line's a low pressure, so that doesn't cause any issues for connectivity in the future. Are the properties on the Hummocks, at the end of Hummocks connecting? It's all one line. It's not separate lines. There's this whole hodgepodge of lines on Grecian Point Road. This is not that. This will all be one line with, I think they have a couple of stubs actually planned in this, but I'd have to confirm that, at least 2.
Jerry, is a 55 gallon per minute maximum volume sufficient to carry everybody's?
Yes, yes, it is. And that 55 gallon per minute effluent requirement, that's pretty standard, and it would carry everybody. The engineer reviewed that, so we should be fine there. There's this one paragraph 3F. It says currently it reads, after installation is completed, the village, not the town, shall maintain, repair, replace, including the section thereof which lies in the unincorporated village. That should probably be changed.
Yeah.
So after installation is complete, the village shall maintain, repair, and replace for reconstruction the extension, including the section that lies within the incorporated town. That's something that I missed when I read through it. And unless that's subsequent, or that paragraph later on where they have addition to the extension, because if the so the way this reads now, the extension, the town doesn't have any accountability for repair, replacement, or reconstruction of the extension, but in the addition to the extension clause or section, we split up the responsibility the way it should be done. So I don't understand why.
But I think there could be 2 different extensions.
Could be.
So,
It could be.
and one could be entirely in the town, and one would be almost entirely in the village.
But I think the issue, is whatever in the town should have maintained, and whatever in the village
Yeah.
should maintain, regardless of whether it's on the initial or the extensions, period.
That seems logical. So that should be a change that goes back to them.
Okay.
Okay,
And-
so, yeah, go ahead, Nora.
So on the first page, recitals, paragraph 2. So this is a 2-part question. Well, it's a statement of question. Where the owner of a parcel located in the village has decided to construct. He didn't decide to construct it. Hernani required it. That they had to put in a sewer if they wanted to expand the house because it was in a wetland. I mean, this is from all the stuff I've read. And that, in fact, the village has, so it shouldn't be decided because it wasn't, I don't think it would have been, that might not have been something someone would have done if they had the choice. But number 2, the village has to pump stuff out until a certain number of people are, there was something about that. What's the obligation of the village? I mean, it's too late, it's happening. I mean, but the village had to do some like monthly maintenance until there's enough people who hook up to it to keep the system going. That was in one of the many documents I read.
I don't, in my conversations, the 5 or 6 conversations I had with Hernani before he left, I don't ever remember discussing that. Maybe Dan might remember, but I don't remember discussing that at all, actually.
I never heard that discussion.
Can we find out about that as one of the items and see what we can work, please?
Yeah, Nora, I need to hear a little bit more so that I can, when I call him tomorrow.
I will see if I can find it. I don't think I've made this up out of whole cloth. I will see if I can find the reference.
All right, good. That would be fine.
Okay.
And then,
I have not been able to read the email exchanges, and I think you're already working on it. But the most glaring issues for me were page 4, the maintenance by the town, I guess.
Yeah.
F and then
Yeah.
H, kind of the cost that were. So it looks like you're on it already. So
Yeah, we're on that. Dan alerted me to that and I started looking at that. And then it says here, there was something about the people on the Long Island Sound side of 203 Hommocks connecting. Dan, those are, according when I talked to Brian, those are the Oak Lane people.
That's not Waterside.
That's not, yeah, that doesn't make sense.
That's how they wrote it. I know that's how they wrote it. I don't know.
You have a lot. The lot backs up on the Long Island Sound.
Yeah, I know. That's how they wrote it. So it's
You have
poorly
houses to the east, you have houses to the west, and you have houses to the north that can hook up to the line. Should be from, anybody in the vicinity of Hommocks Road or Oak Lane. Because that's in Eagles Nose. Those are the 3 areas. Those are the 3 streets, and they should be named because that's what it is.
The only one missing here, the only one missing is Oak. The others are not.
Well, no, because what happens is, see, this is what confused me. The Hommocks Road takes a sharp right.
Yeah.
So basically opposite the direction of Oak Lane. So
Correct.
both that portion of Hommocks Road and Oak Lane back up to what is Delancey Cove, which is sheltered by kind of Grecian Point. It's not part of the Long Island Sound. And part of it, we talk about the manhole at near Eagle Knolls, but so that's why I think that's what I think the reference to the extension is. And so I think we need to just clarify what that is, but nothing backs up to the Sound.
Okay.
Correct. It was just
you have to go through the harbor to get to Long Island Sound. So
right. It was just a little it was imprecise.
Yeah, it was. It was. You're right.
All right.
But we don't want those to be imprecise.
So I think we need to postpone this till we get the answer.
Yes.
New drafts.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Jerry, I don't know if you think you'll have this by Tuesday, the 29th or not, but.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna start working on it at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning.
All right.
Because it's got to go back and forth now a little bit. Not the imprecise stuff, because we could fix that real quick.
All right.
Item with the town.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. We can do what we need to do if we change what we want to change and approve it on the 29th. And then it can go back to the town if it needs to.
Okay.
I would say this doesn't stop the work from going on, correct? Because they've been working.
Well, they've been trying to work, but I haven't given them the full approval yet. So.
Okay.
Okay. It looks like Glenn has his hand up again. Can we hear from him?
Yeah, I'm glad to hear this is going in, a great improvement in environmentally sensitive area. Do we have an exact count on how many homes are in the village and how many homes are in the town of Mamaroneck that currently are using septic tanks up that road? And I would encourage both the village and the town to send letters to those residents to see if we can get as many of those homes hooked up as we're putting this system in as possible right away. Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thanks, Glenn.
Okay, the last thing we have is a resolution authorizing the payment for 2 village vehicles. And I wonder, Jerry, can you give us a little update?
The resolution is a request from us, the clerk treasurer's office and the manager's office, just to pay our vendor, the cruiser division, TCD, in between meetings, so that we had missed putting them on the abstract to get these 2 vehicles paid.
Okay.
Public Works vehicle, and then there's the manager's vehicle. And so what we would be asking for is the board's consideration to approve the resolution so we can make the payment and not wait until the next abstract.
We will include the manual pay on the next abstract to present in a public meeting. We just wanted to pay the vendor because we missed a few abstracts.
That's all it is.
Does anyone have questions about this?
It was in the budget, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I believe
Budgeted.
Mr. Tippett has a comment on this as well.
Sorry, forgot to take my hand down.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you. Thanks, Glenn.
Get this done and go to your personal event. Bye.
No, we need to vote. So do we have a motion to approve this resolution?
No move.
Second,
Second.
Augie?
Trustees Winstrup,
Yes?
Natchez,
Yes.
Lucas,
Of course, yes.
Tefor.
Yes.
And is there anything else before we adjourn? Do we need, no? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Thank you, Dan. Second? I'll second.
Good job.
Augie?
Trustees Winstrup,
Yes.
Natchez,
Yes.
Lucas,
Yes.
Tefor.
Yes.
All right. Thank you
Thank
all.
you.
Thanks, Kelly.
Yes, you're very welcome.
See you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night.